So the beginning of the San Andreas Fault is a really cool thing that we have going on here. So the way the San Andreas Fault works, all right, is how this was formed, was here we have the coastline of North America. So North America is hanging out over here. And we know we've got the Pacific plate out here, but remember the Pacific Ocean is made up of a bunch of plates. There's one really large plate, but there's still some little plates. If we go back to the Oligocene, we had a divergent boundary sitting in the Pacific, which we still do today. Right? There's my divergent boundary. Remember, divergent boundaries really look like this. If you remember back to our plate tectonic lecture, where they're separated by transform faults. So here we have our divergent boundary. Well, what's interesting is this whole area is moving this way. North America's going this way. Let me get rid of this other arrow so that doesn't confuse you. So we've got subduction, right, occurring. So this whole area is getting subducted, which we know that should make sense because remember back in the Mesozoic we saw subduction occurring, and that's what was bringing in all those island arcs to collide. Well, what happens is as it subducts, right, this subduction boundary is going to end up getting closer and closer to that divergent boundary. Eventually, right, what's going to happen is the divergent boundary ends up getting subducted. So as you can imagine, here we are, my divergent boundary is subducted. Well, this area is still spreading, and this area is still spreading. So that's going to create a whole bunch of tension right here. And so how do we resolve that? There's a big crack in the earth. Now eventually as subduction continues to happen, let's see, let's erase this, let's make more subduction happen here. So let's say now, here we are. What's going to happen is this tensional crack is going to get bigger and bigger. And that's what the San Andreas is. The San Andreas is this tensional crack that connects up these divergent boundaries. So if you go back to the previous slide and look at that 4-panel layout of that diagram, you'll see that as that divergent boundary gets subducted, that area that's going to be there between those tensional cracks gets bigger and bigger. Therefore, the San Andreas gets longer and longer.